Let's hop in a time machine and zoom back to a busy medieval market. Picture the hustle and bustle, the vibrant colors, and the lively chatter of people bartering and trading goods. It's a scene full of life and energy. Imagine colorful stalls packed with fresh fruits and veggies, farm animals and fishermen showing off their latest catches. The air is filled with the earthy scent of fresh produce and the salty tang of the sea. Unlike our supermarkets today, medieval folks depended on what the land gave them each season. They had to work hard, planting and harvesting crops by hand, following the rhythms of nature. A peasant's meal was mostly what they could grow in their gardens or find nearby. Their diet was simple but wholesome, consisting of vegetables, grains, and occasionally some meat or fish if they were lucky. Grains were used to make bread, porridge, and even ale. Bread was a staple in their diet, and ale was often safer to drink than water. Veggies were super important for staying healthy, and meat? That was a special treat. Most peasants couldn't afford to eat meat regularly, so it was reserved for special occasions. They kept food from going bad by salting, smoking, and pickling it. These methods were essential for surviving the harsh winters when fresh food was scarce. What people ate back then showed how connected they were to the land. They lived sustainably, using every part of what they grew and raised, wasting nothing. Important people like nobles ate fancier stuff. Their feasts were grand affairs with multiple courses, showcasing their wealth and status. They had exotic spices, wines from far away, and all sorts of meat. These luxurious items were often imported from distant lands, adding an air of sophistication to their meals. This showed everyone how rich and powerful they were. Their lavish banquets were not just about food but also about displaying their influence and control over resources. Farming got a lot better in the Middle Ages in Europe. Before this period, farming techniques were quite basic and inefficient. But during the medieval era, significant advancements were made that transformed agriculture. New tools, like a super-strong plow and watermills, meant more food for everyone. The heavy plow could turn over the rich, heavy soils of northern Europe, which were previously difficult to farm. Watermills, on the other hand, provided a reliable source of power for grinding grain, making flour production much easier and faster. People started trading more, bringing new foods and cooking ideas from different places. Markets became bustling centers of activity where people could buy and sell a variety of goods, including exotic spices and ingredients that were previously unavailable. This exchange of goods and ideas led to a richer and more diverse diet. Farmers also learned a cool trick called crop rotation, which made the soil better and helped grow more food. By rotating different crops in and out of fields, they could prevent soil depletion and reduce the risk of crop failure. This practice significantly increased agricultural productivity. Wheat, barley, oats, and rye became super popular. These grains were staple foods and formed the basis of the medieval diet. They were used to make bread, which was a daily essential for most people. They used these grains for bread, porridge, and that ale we talked about. Bread was often coarse and dark, but it was filling and nutritious. Porridge was another common dish, made by boiling grains in water or milk. Ale, brewed from barley, was a popular beverage, especially since clean drinking water was not always available. Veggies like peas, beans, onions, and cabbage were important too. These vegetables were grown in small garden plots and were a crucial part of the diet, providing essential vitamins and nutrients. Fruit was a seasonal treat, eaten fresh or preserved for later. Apples, pears, and berries were common, and people would dry or ferment them to ensure they had a supply during the winter months. Meat wasn't as common, especially if you weren't rich. Most peasants relied on a diet heavy in grains and vegetables, with meat being a rare luxury. Pigs and chickens were the main meat sources. These animals were relatively easy to raise and provided a good source of protein. Pigs could be fed on scraps, and chickens provided both meat and eggs. Beef? That was only for the wealthy. Cattle were expensive to raise and required a lot of land, so beef was typically reserved for the upper classes and special occasions. Sometimes people hunted for deer and rabbits too. Hunting was both a sport and a means of supplementing the diet, especially for those who had access to forests and hunting grounds. So what you ate really depended on your place in society. The rich enjoyed a varied and plentiful diet, while the poor had to make do with simpler, more monotonous fare. This disparity in food availability highlighted the social inequalities of the time. How many calories people ate depended on things like their job, where they lived, and whether they were rich or poor in society. Farmers and laborers needed lots of energy for their tough, demanding jobs. Their meals of grains, veggies, and beans gave them the power they needed daily. Historians think they ate somewhere between 2,000 and 4,000 calories a day. Nobles, with their fancy food, ate even more calories. Your job also mattered a lot. A stonemason building a castle needed way more calories than a monk studying books. Imagine stepping into a medieval dining hall. The atmosphere is lively, filled with the sounds of chatter and laughter. Everyone's eating together at long tables piled high with food. The tables are adorned with a variety of dishes, from roasted meats to fresh fruits. It was like a big family dinner. The sense of community was strong, with everyone sharing stories and enjoying the meal together. People mostly ate with their hands, using bread like a spoon or fork. This practice was not only practical but also added to the communal feel of the meal. They usually had two big meals, dinner and supper. These meals were essential to sustain them through their physically demanding days. Dinner, eaten around noon, was the biggest meal. It was a time for everyone to gather and refuel for the rest of the day. They often had a thick soup or stew with vegetables, grains, and maybe some meat. These hearty dishes provided the necessary nutrients and energy. Bread was always there, both to eat and to scoop up food. It was a staple in their diet, versatile and filling. Supper, a smaller meal, was in the evening. It was lighter, often consisting of leftovers from dinner or simple dishes. Portion sizes were big because everyone worked so hard. The physical labor required a lot of energy, and the meals reflected that need. And they ate quickly so the food wouldn't go bad. Without modern preservation methods, it was crucial to consume food while it was still fresh.